Indianapolis exploded with drama last week, but let's hope that we haven't reached a crescendo at only halfway into the season. Indeed, the GTP Championship remains tight and could easily switch around as things progress. Let's see what Motegi holds in store as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Twin Ring Motegi's road course hasn't had the spotlight quite as much as its oval, so to refresh our audience, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Twin Ring Motegi. This well-known Japanese racing facility located roughly 2 hours north of Tokyo gets its name from the fact that it has both an oval and a road course that can be run. But a unique feature of this track is that instead of having a roval layout, the road course is entirely separate from the oval circuit. On top of that, drivers have 3 different road courses to choose from in the form of the Grand Prix, East, and West circuits. While not totally devoid of elevation change, the track is relatively flat. What distinguishes the place the most is the combination of plenty of long straights heading into heavy braking zones. This means that passing opportunities abound. With it being built in 1996, it has most of the qualities you'd expect from a modern road course, including flat curves, a fair amount of runoff, and multiple pit complexes. Oddly, because of the oval, the track includes night lighting for a portion of the road circuit. Though there isn't much notable about most of the turns, one of the more distinctive corners is the final chicane on the Grand Prix course. Leading out of a tunnel that returns you to the oval infield, it's kinked on entry and it tightens greatly at the second apex. This makes pushing the limits of this corner extremely tough, and it often catches drivers out. Though international series such as IndyCar and MotoGP have held rounds at the track, today it is mainly used for local open wheel and GT series. Still, the one-of-a-kind experience offered to drivers and fans at this circuit is sure to keep people coming back for years to come. Well, Adam, it's been a minute, but hello again, and tell us a little bit about Twin Ring Motegi.
Absolutely, Joe. It's great to be beside you in the booth again. Twin Ring Motegi's Grand Prix road course is one of the most challenging road courses in iRacing. Staying at a solid 2.5 cars wide the entire way around, this sweeping 3-mile, 4.8-kilometer, 14-turn circuit features some of the most decent elevation change and many sweeping corners that will suit the high downforce of the Nissan GTP far more than the Audi GTO. The Nissans will need as much downforce as they can stick on the car to be quick through the turns and traffic, but doing so will reduce their straight line speed, which they will need to affect any passing throughout the race. So those who tend to qualify mid-pack on back may actually trim out their cars a bit to try and make passing easier, especially coming out of turn 10 into turn 11. The Audis will struggle with all the long, arcing corners that tend to force the understeer-prone four-wheel drive machine wide, but expect some great side-by-side battles, as neither side of the track will have an advantage. Multiclass here is perilous to say the least. The narrow track, added to both classes needing as much of it as possible to follow the fast line, means we will see some dramatic comings together during this race. And with tempers high from Indy last time out, and with an extra 20 minutes in this race, I'm expecting fireworks again today, Joe.
Same here, and well, we saw fireworks last week, but let's take a look at the Prototypes Championship and see what that did to that, because Alex Gall took another victory, 4 points ahead, or 4 points behind Matthias Hovdal, curiously, though, and that is because Alex had a 0. So Aitor Sintez Guindo, Alex Millward, and Laust Olsen are far behind the pair of them. Hovdal has been the one to, at least points-wise, take the challenge to Alex, but Gall has been quick on the track and tough to beat. What about the GTO Championship?
Well, with Vili Rolla having that mechanical failure last week and Yuko Leskala taking all but one of the wins on the season, that puts Yuko up at 12 points ahead of Reed Miller, who's in second. Robin Hapich actually has jumped himself 4 spots up to be tied with third with Vili Rolla. Then we have Roman Pawlowski down there in the 4th position, just ahead of Albrecht Liebenau as well. Roman Pawlowski jumped himself 6 positions to get up there, so this battle for third is actually very tight, and Vili Rolla is going to have to put on a good show in order to make it farther up the field, and I'm not even sure if he's here today, Joe.
Let me double check real quick. And no, I do not see Villarola here today. You're right. So going to be interesting to watch how this all will unfold in that sense. As we now have the qualifying taking place, we're waiting for cars to set their first time. And it does take a while to get around this track, especially for those GTO cars. Leskala might have an open door, but don't count out guys like Hugh Haycox, who have been so incredibly fast in these GTOs. Looking up above, Alex Gall is yet to set foot on the track. Let me see if his connection has failed him or something. I'm not seeing a disconnect here. So Gall taking his sweet time. He can't wait too long, though. They don't get much leeway with these long lap times.
Absolutely not, and especially with the fact that these Nissans tend to do better on their second lap due to the added tire compound. You can see Phil Lake just struggling there to try and get through that turn as he's trying to sweep through underneath the second of the bridge sections now. Sean Campbell, first to get a time in, goes fastest over Nicholas Schneider, and here's Phil Lake now getting into that long front straightaway. We'll see whether or not he could put in a decent time. He's going to cross the line and go second right now.
Sean Campbell doing fairly well as he holds that provisional pole. And Gall is now out on track. We've also got fast drivers like Alex Millward coming across the line. Let's see what the 6 can do as he sets his first one at 35 flat. That's going to put Alex up to the top spot.
Millward up to that top spot, beating Sean Campbell. We'll see what kind of time Gall can put in. Yuko Leskala currently holding provisional pole in the GTOs. Here's Reed Miller as he's sweeping underneath the bridge for the first time, going through 12, 13, 14. They come so quick at the end of this lap, and then it's a hard push out to the line to try and make a good time. Is that he going to hold on to that? Did he get a 1x? Let's find out as he crosses the line. Did lose a little bit of time, getting a little bit loose, a 148.169, and that's going to put him in second.
Nicely done, but it's still Leskala who tops the field, and it's 1.5 seconds back to Reed Miller, so definitely some to make up. What about Roman Pawlowski? His first time lap, it should give him enough for a second one, and it's a 148.3. That'll put him in third, quite close to Miller.
Alex Gall just crossed the line to start his first lap. He should just barely have enough time to make two, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not... Actually, he's just now coming across the line to start his first timed lap, so he will actually not have time to make 2 laps. So Alex Gall will only have time to make his first qualifying lap, so he's got to make it good in order to try and bump Millward off the top spot.
And in fact, I see Millward slow right now, so his second lap is not going to be a quick one. Phil Lake has just finished. He's only good enough for third. Mukanos just came across. He's going to be in P5. We're still waiting on Sintes Guindo, his first time and only time. No, actually, he should have time to come back around for a second one. He'll put him 7th rather. And Alex Gall is halfway through this lap. What was going on there?
Joe, it looks like Niels Core has moved himself up into second position, beating out Reed Miller for that second spot. Now Hugh Haycox crosses the line and goes into second position after Reed Miller's completed both of his laps. So Hugh and Niels doing a great job right now. Hideki Koivisto crossing the line, only good enough to drop him into the 10th position. And we have Brian Shanahan coming up next at 150.134. That, unfortunately, only puts him in 10th position, but he does knock Hideki Koivisto out of the top 10.
Here's the thing, though. They are still a full second back from Yuko Leskala. He once again shows just how much might he has in these GTOs. But Alex Gall on his lone qualifying lap here. What's it gonna be for the number 1 machine? Can he put it on pole in his only attempt? Or is he gonna have to try and chase down Millward out of the final chicane? It looks clean. Let's see what he sets, if he sets one. And it is a 35.1. That's just off the pole by a 1/10 of a second.
So very, very close there. Here's Becker. Looks like he's had some contact, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to, unfortunately, make a time here. But we're still waiting for Roman Pawlowski, who just finished his second lap. Is good enough for 4th position. Here's Aaron Vogel, who's going down the downhill into turn 11. looks a little bit slow on the brakes, so he's going to struggle a little bit to get through this final sector. Now sweeping underneath the bridge into the wide arc for turn 12 and 13, both left-handers into the very tight turn 14. It takes you out onto the front stretch. Squeeze that throttle down, try not to get it too loose, and he punches it out. Let's see whether or not he's going to improve his time. He's not. A 151.939 will be his fastest time, and Robert Murphy's going to bail out. That will close our qualifying down, Joe.
Indeed. So last few seconds ticked by, and all but two of our drivers have managed to put times in. Looks like Carlos Fonseca and Becker are the only two that didn't manage to get a clean one in. Round 7, so we are now into the latter half of the season. This is where it starts to become important to keep those consistent results. As we've seen, it hurt Alex Gall, but the drop points, of course, will come in handy down the line for him. We'll start counting those probably pretty soon here in our championship results. So, pole has been set. Let's go through that starting order here today. Alex Millward starts on the top with Alex Gall next to him, and all Alex front row with Sean Campbell starting in 3rd and Phil Lake in P4. Nick Schneider starts from 6, and Nick Mukanos in P6, with Laust Olsen in 7th, followed by Aitor Sintiz Skindo to his outside. Jacob Leon starts 9th, Fabian Jungbluth in 10th, and then on the next slide, it is Patrick Carrion on the inside of row 6. Paul Duke starts in 12th. You've got Matthew Tate in 13th, and Carlos Fonseca will line up behind Matthew 14th of that GTP grid.
Yuko Lesko is going to start on pole for the GTOs, with Hugh Haycock starting off in 2nd place. Niels Kor starting off the 2nd row, with Roman Pawlowski outside of him for 4th. Reed Miller bumped down to 5th after having what looked like a decent qualifying. Then we have Albrecht Liebenau lining outside him in row 3. Ian Haycock is going to start off in the 7th position, with Robert T. Murphy in 8th. Robin Happich going to start off 9th, and then Brian Shanahan 10th. Hideki Koivisto starting off in the 11th position, with Oren Laskin, Mika Tupola, Aaron Vogel, and Jay Becker rounding out your 15 drivers on the Audi grid and the 29 drivers who signed up for this race.
Not having a very long pace lap here, as iRacing grids them up on the support pits at this track, so drivers won't have much time to try and get the tires and the brakes all heated up. And then they're on their way for a 40-minute race today. So it's going to be a short sprint format for them. There, as we hop on board, I think this looks like we are with one of the drivers in the Audi field as we take a few views from inside the cars waiting to get going. Looks like the Porsche Pace car is on its way. Alex Millward, who didn't have the best of races at Indianapolis, looking to try and redeem himself, but he's going to have to beat a very fast Alex Gall, who will start next to him. Will it be fireworks down into the first corner? They come under the bridge that leads you back into the infield underneath the oval in this very unique layout of a Roval course. And the pace car is in. Millward waits for it. I expect him to take off after the chicane. And indeed, he is on it. Green flag is out, and he's got a good jump over Alex Gall. Sean Campbell already looking to his inside as they come down into the first corner. Side by side for second place, as the rest are pretty much single file. The battle continues as they fly towards 3, but we got to head to the GTOs.
GTOs actually started between turns 13 and 14. Yuko Lesko with a great jump. Hugh Haycock's up to 2nd place. Roman Pawlowski takes over Niels Kor for 3rd, with Reed Miller still in the 5th position. They're all still single file, as Sean Campbell's actually had a wreck in the GTPs.
Yeah, I think he had some net code, unfortunately. Phil Lake looks like some ghost contact between them, and that shoved him off the course. So Lake up into 3rd. Because of that, Gall still retains that 2nd place. Nick Schneider gets promoted to 4th, and Mukanos to 5th.
Looks like Aaron Vagley had a little bit of trouble with Jay Becker and Mika Tupola and Hideki Koivisto in the back of the Audi field. We have actually had quite a few brake lockups as they go through underneath the bridge for the first time. Mika Tupola actually going off track, as well as Jay Becker, as they outbrake themselves for turn 4 as they dive underneath the bridge. But still, Yuko Lesko leads over Hugh Haycock and Roman Pawlowski.
I feel like this season we've seen a whole lot of tire lockups, front tire lockups, breaking into corners from these Audis. Do you think that's the latest build that we've had from iRacing?
Absolutely, Joe. It seems like that seems to be the fastest way around the track, believe it or not. Actually, Niels Kor with a great opportunity on Roman Pawlowski as they head towards the sweeping hairpin of turn 10. Reed Miller, you can see locking up the brakes. He's the one who's currently producing our smoke screen as they go across the line for the first time with with Yuka Leskala and Hugh Haycox leading this field. They're starting to streak away a little bit from Roman Pawlowski.
Heading off to our leader in the GTPs. Not much to have missed here. I think, we have a car spinning off. Paul Duke, that's farther towards the back. Don't need to go there, but the 28 loses a position. There's a bit of discussion over the radio right now. Phil Lake trying to say that he was caught out by what happened there at the start. Hopefully, they'll be able to realize that it was some net code. At least it looked like it from my end.
Well, let's see whether we can take a look at that, actually, because this was between Sean Campbell and, I believe, Phil Lake. So let's find out what happens here. Sean Campbell up to 10th position once again, but here we go. As you see, that's Nick Picanos driving side by side with Campbell. Phil Lake trying to find a way through, and a little bit of netcode between the two of them pushes Campbell off track into the gravel.
Well, he's still got the rest of the race to try to recover. And so far, he's gotten his way into 10th, so that's a good sign. And he's challenging Fabian Newbluth in front of him. So up into turn 10, very sharp hairpin. Doesn't try it here, maybe trying to square off the corner, get himself a good exit as he applies the throttle and picks up speed once again, but he looks a little too far back to me.
Absolutely, just a little bit too far back. You can see Jacob Leon doing a little bit of a weave ahead of him, just ahead of Fabian Newbluth, who's up there. And there we see Laust Olsen. Oh, that was actually Jacob Leon going off track there. So Jacob possibly having a little bit of connection issue, unfortunately, as they go through this long sweeping section between turn 12, 13, 14, back onto the front straight. Sean Campbell off track a little bit there. Alex Gall with the fastest lap right now. I can report that Matthew Tate has parked his GTP on the side of the road.
Unfortunate. Albrecht Liebenau is also facing the wrong way out of the hairpin. Now, how in the world? He's trying to get back going. He's going to have to wait for everybody to go by. Let's see if we can. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how he got facing that way that far down the straightaway, because there's nobody here to tip him around.
Well, there you see he clips the right rear wheel into the grass, then tries to save it, ends up bouncing off the inside wall, and then pirouetting down the inside. So that's why we see him so far down. He's able to recover it at this point, but he's got some massive front right damage, and he's actually having a lot of trouble. Looks like Aaron Vogel has also taken it to the pits. We're going to jump up to Roman Pawlowski, who's being challenged right now by Niels Kor.
Looks around the outside, but he almost opened the door for Reed Miller, but Reed Miller seems to have a bad exit coming off of turn 3, so he drops back as Kor gets another chance down to turn 5. Pawlowski continuing to defend as they head towards the hairpin. Could see an over-under. No, he's going to park it right on the apex, and Kor still can't do anything.
And now Reed Miller's right up the back of Niels Kor, trying to find his way through these corners, these long, sweeping sectors, as they try and move up towards the back half of this course. Now going through 7, 8, and then approaching 9. 9's going to be the best opportunity for Niels to make a move. Let's see whether or not Roman covers it off. He's actually not going to cover it off. Not quite enough of a run for these guys to make the move, but Niels almost makes contact with the rear bumper of Pawlowski as they head up towards the hairpin of 10.
This has been hot early in this race, and this is for a podium position for third place, locking up the brakes once again. Oh, can't get on the power, and Niels Kor finds himself under threat. He tries to go defensive as Reed Miller gets the overlap. He's already alongside him, and I think that was a lift. Niels, seeing the writing on the wall, lets the Miller Light car through.
Absolutely. Reed Miller doing his best job to try and hang on to that. Didn't lock up the brakes, actually, that time down into turn 11, so was able to hang on to it as they dive down through that twisting section onto our second of the pit straights, the one that we're actually using today, and this is going to be crossing the line to start lap 4.
So it's been some fantastic racing here towards the front of the GTOs, but at the very, very front, it's still separated by about a second and a half between Leskala and Haycox. Now, Campbell continues his charge back through the field. He's up to 8th. He got past Jungbluth. Up next is going to be Laust Olsen. I think Matt Tate headed into the pits. He just took a tow, so our timing and scoring might look a little bit weird for a moment. coming down towards the hairpin of 11. Olsen stays safe, at least for the time being.
I got to report Oren Laska has had some tech trouble. He's also taken it to the pits, so quite a few of our drivers dealing with some technical issues today. But there we see this awesome battle going on between Laust Olsen as he's trying to hold off right now Sean Campbell, who's trying to make his recovery drive all the way up to 8th already, like you said, Joe, but just not quite enough of that straight line speed to affect it on Laust Olsen. Laust taking it very shallow into the corner, trying to do a diamond effect as they go through turn 1. It's almost like 2 corners there, Joe. It's a kind of a double apexer, depending on how you take it. And you can see the different approaches to racing this track. But look at that. Campbell just quite a bit quicker through this turn section, but just can't get it on the straights.
He's in the slipstream. He pokes his nose out. I don't think that one's a serious attempt. And he is going to get right back into line. You know, I wonder if maybe with him bounding over the grass and gravel on turn 1, could that affect the straight line speed, damaging the underside of the car?
It could, but the curbs aren't that high here, quite that high here for that to be effective very much. We should go to Reed Miller, though, because he's actually trying to make a move on Roman Pawlowski as they go through, trying to make this turn on turn 1. You can see Reed trying to double up, but look at that. Roman Pawlowski just parks it on the apex of the corner, makes Reed have to try and go around him. Reed can't find his way through and gets held up once again.
Reed's clearly got some great race pace here today. Qualified behind these two, but a little wide coming into turn 3. Reed sees the chance. He's going to get his nose in side by side as they accelerate down towards turn 5. Advantage Pawlowski. He's got the inside and a nose ahead, but look at under braking. Here comes Reed Miller right back at him at the apex. He's, and using the momentum the long way around. Reed Miller with a fantastic exit off of turn 5. That'll give him the inside into the S's, as well as Niels Kor, who almost gets involved, but fighting back. His rival, Roman Pawlowski, defends and retains at least 4th place, does not lose both of the spots. Reed Miller onto the podium.
Reed Miller, a great job to get past both of these guys, but look at this. Roman Pawlowski's going to have to be defensive here as they head towards turn 10. Niels Kor's going to try and go around the outside as they go into the hairpin. They're going to be side by side going through there. Can Niels carry more speed off the exit? No, Roman covers him off, but now Roman's got a drafting Niels Kor down. He's going to look to his outside as they head down the hill towards 11. Who's going to break latest? Who's going to make the corner?
Once again, Roman outbraked into the turn. Last time it didn't work well for him as Miller managed to get by. This time, though, he gets a better exit. But he's off the racing line. The car's struggling to find grip side by side through the chicane. Usually doesn't work, but not only does Roman do it successfully, he keeps that 4th spot.
And here comes Niels once again looking up the inside of 1. We know that Roman can carry some speed through here if he can do so, but Niels Kor completely dives it in the inside. Roman's having to take the offline, and Niels Kor slices his way through. Can he keep the momentum up as they head down towards 2? Roman Pawlowski a little bit too far back to try and make a lunge, but here we go into the braking zone for 2. Looks like Niels is going to hold on to it for the time being.
Well, now that Kor has managed to get by Pawlowski, he's lost a decent gap up to Miller. It's a whole 2 seconds between them. We'll step away from that because Sean Campbell has met his next victim, and it's Sintez Guindo who's going to leave the apex open. Sees him coming through. Can he complete the pass? This will give the inside right back to Sintez Guindo as they're going to go 3 wide through the GTO traffic. And Campbell has to try again later.
That was a good move from Jay Becker actually to back off there, because 3 wide going into turn 2 always ends poorly for whoever's on the outside of that corner, so would have wiped out all 3 of them most likely going into that sector. But Sean Campbell was putting some major pressure on Heitor Sintez Guindo, who looks a little bit understeery, like he's pushing into these corners. Sean Campbell has that thing definitely, for sure, with a lot of downforce. Now they come up on Albrecht Liebenau, who's just racing his own line. A little bit of contact there between Sintez Guindo. Sean Campbell's going to take advantage to try and go over the outside of Liebenau. They're going to split Liebenau, actually, as Heitor Sintez Guindo and Sean Campbell continue this battle. Guindo having to hold on to that car, but Campbell already cut through.
Fantastic stuff from Campbell. Can we get an onboard replay from the 5 with that move? That was just reading the situation perfectly.
And here we go. He's just reading where the GTO is going to be. He realizes that the GTO is going to hold up Sanchez Guindo at the apex and just decides to go on the outside. What a move to hang on to that thing and to trust Liebenau to hold his line. That's some impressive car control for sure.
There looked like so little room between them. I thought for sure he was going to hit him from that onboard. That almost looked like more luck than anything. Up at the front, things have gotten interesting for second place. Gall, instead of chasing down Millward, has been defending from Phil Lake.
Yeah, Phil Lake right now in P2 of the GTPs. Alex Gall right now actually takes it a little bit too deep into the corner. Phil Lake really putting some hard pressure on Gall, but they've actually caught Millward quite a bit here. Millward's been able to stretch it up by another second just because of that traffic alone. That was Hapich and Koivisto who were battling for 8th and 9th in the GTOs who they just went by. But Phil Lake now on the back of Gall, and we know that Gall doesn't race quite as well when he's looking through his mirrors as opposed to when he's looking out his windshield. So we'll see how this is going to affect him as we continue this race.
On board with Phil Lake in the Nissans once again, as that number 4 tries to chase down second. They come up through turn 9, and they're going to approach some more of the GTO traffic. This time Shanahan in 7th. If they can get a good exit and not be held up. No, it's not going to be timed well for Alex Gall. Unfortunately, he checks up. Now he's able to weave around, but he does not lose the spot to Lake.
You know, Phil had to back off actually a little bit more than Gall did, and so Gall was able to get the tires and the speed spun up a little bit more, but now Phil's right back on his rear bumper, and they've got some more traffic as they're going through this very tight sector right before turn 1, and that is Millward getting held up as well.
Millward not really getting the rub of the green here today. Ian Haycock's just trying to stay out of the way. And wow, yeah, under braking once again. Alex Gall gaining so much on his rival as they come off of turn 2. That turned out worse for Phil Lake, who is now a second behind. A little bit more traffic, and this is the trio that we were watching earlier, though more spread apart: Pawlowski, Core, and Miller.
Absolutely, and they should be separated enough that Millward and Gall should be able to find their way through. Gall should probably take the inside here, but doesn't quite want to send it that deep. He's going to stay behind Pawlowski, which is going to help hold him up significantly. As you see Millward cutting his way through, able to go around the outside of Niels Core, and so he's actually gained that second back now. Alex Gall diving it up the inside. This is where Millward's going to get held up, though, because it's going to be held up behind Reed Miller, who has to wash out to the outside. Does a nice crossover job, but you can see just how challenging the traffic is around here, Joe, because of the nature of the track and the fact that it switches back so often, and it's so narrow. It's so challenging to try and navigate through.
Miller stays out of the way, and our second, or actually top 3 really, in the GTP stay in the same spots. Millward leads, Gall second, Lake in 3rd. Getting close to the halfway mark in this race now. It is absolutely flying by. And what's interesting is they've only gone through the GTOs once, and even then, they've still got a couple more to go. So I don't think they'll really be able to lap them much more than one more time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll be one more time. Let's take a look at Yuka Leskala. He's only 3.5 seconds ahead of Hugh Haycox, which is a little bit less race pace than I was expecting from Yuko, but we know that he's got a ton of pace in hand that he could probably deploy if he wanted to. Hugh Haycox doing a great job, actually, of hanging on to the back of Yuka Leskala. We're going to ride on board with Hugh Haycox for a moment. Hugh, fairly new to this series, came in this season, and quite frankly has been completely blowing me away with his pace in this Audi. It's such a hard car to master, and he has gone from back of the pack to middle of the pack to now battling up there for the lead, only 3 seconds off of our most dominant driver in the series the last couple of years. That's impressive pace for 1 year. We should go up to the lead of the GTPs, though, because Millward got held up significantly.
Yeah, got cut down to about 0.2 of a second, but yet more of the traffic in the way. Unfortunately, Hugh Haycox actually was who they just went by. That cost Hugh some time on Leskala on top of things. Looks like Millward survived that bit of running past the GT cars. Question is, when he starts to catch up to them a second time around, will it still swing his way?
We got a big battle for P7 and the GTPs. A huge swath of cars tucked together. Aitor Sanchez Guindo, Fabian Jungbluth, Jacob Leon, and Laust Olsen. And look at this, Jacob Leon trying to go up the inside of Jungbluth. and he's going to go 3 wide with Ian Haycox, actually. So this 4-way battle is starting to get really heat up for these drivers.
They're going to stay in position. Sintez Guindo still in 7th. Jungbluth 8th, Leon 9th, and Olsen right behind them in 10th. 4 all vying for a spot, and Sintez Guindo, despite not being able to make the apex, holds off Jungbluth, who made an ambitious move.
Absolutely amazing driving from these guys. They're all putting it way on the line right now.
Millward's off. Millward's off. What has happened to the number 6? He's blown his engine. Oh, no.
Oh, it was on a downshift into turn 1, Joe.
Millward, who led from the start with the pole position, suddenly sees it all slip through his fingers.
Oh, and you hear it just go pop right there as he downshifts just 1 gear too many and throws that thing into a lower gear, unfortunately. And we're seeing his smoke all over the place as we could jump back to that battle for that 7th position. Aitor Sintez Guindo, Fabian Jungbluth now trying to hold off each other. Now you see up ahead of them, Reed Miller and Niels Kor nose to tail as well. This is the battle for 3rd place in the GTOs. And there you see Millward parked along the side of the road as they streak by. Oh, this is going to hold up that battle significantly. Where's Jacob Leon going to go? He's going to go to the inside of Niels Kor and split this GTO battle. And here comes Laust Olsen.
And he's stuck. There goes Olsen, but can he find space? Oh no, Leon gets bumped off. He's gonna run into Miller, and Miller tries to save it, somehow keeps the car on his Laust. Olsen also goes off.
And Miller's able to hold on to the position ahead of Niels Kor, who's going to try and dive him up the inside for the 3rd position. Here he's going to put his nose in there as Laust Olsen's still trying to recover in the background. Niels Kor trying to take advantage of this as they go through turn 10, headed towards turn 11. Reed Miller's got a better run.
An absolutely bizarre set of circumstances, and this fight still for the podium positions down into turn 11 doesn't quite go in favor of Kor. Fighting back, Miller just a nose ahead as they reach the final chicane.
Unbelievable. Let's take a look at this replay here as Niels actually can't get the exit of 14 right, but let's take a look at this. This is nuts.
So what's wild about this is Leon makes it 3 wide. It makes contact, it causes contact with Miller. That sends Leon off. As he's trying to save the car, he swings back, hits Miller. Miller hits Olsen, and that sends Olsen off. So it all kind of, it was just a chain reaction between all 3 cars.
And somehow Reed Miller was able to hang on to that and the position as well through all of that chaos that he just was kind of a passenger for. So amazingly, the people who came out worse with the GTPs, Reed Miller outbrakes himself into the corner going underneath turn 4 to turn 5. Reed Miller starting to feel the pressure from Niels. Niels just can't seem to make it work.
And Sean Campbell up to 5th, already looking at a 4th place. This is Nick Mukanos that he's been hounding, and I do mean hounding. He has just been all over the rear wing. Mukanos tries to go defensive, covering down to the inside. Campbell pops back out to the racing line. Can he outbrake him, or is he going to go for the over-under? Looks like maybe the over-under, but it's just not long enough of a straightaway to work.
I can report that Reed Miller got into the grass just a little bit on the exit of turn 9, ends up losing the position to Niels Kor, so Niels Kor up to 3rd position in the GTOs now as we continue to watch Sean Campbell try and effect this pass on Nick McConnell.
This almost looks like more of a matter of time here for Campbell, who's got a lot better pace than Nick, but Nick's doing a fantastic job of playing defense here today.
Yeah, Nick very good at playing defense. He's also good at getting those positions going as well, but Sean Campbell's just so quick through these twistier sections. This is the best fight that Campbell's had all day, and this recovery drive for Campbell, an excellent drive for sure.
Ooh, late dive, late defense there down to the inside for Mukanos. Feels very much under threat from the number 5. Almost looks like Sean just kind of waiting for the right opportunity, trying to play it safe. He's already been shoved off track once. He doesn't want to have another incident.
Absolutely, and Nick McConnell doesn't want to have another incident either. He's just not had any luck this season as far as the incidents are concerned, for sure. So yeah, I think he's going to fight Campbell hard but fair. Let's go to P3 in the GTOs, though, because Niels Kor has not been able to run away from Reed Miller, and now they've got Roman Pawlowski breathing down their neck yet again.
These 3 can't seem to be separated. and they head into the S's. This is an awkward place for GTPs to catch them. It looks like this driver is being nice and patient. So none of them are going to change positions, at least at this stage, but everybody's going to be sizing up that hairpin, looking for the best launch possible.
Absolutely, each one of them looking towards that position. Reed Miller is not quite close enough to Nils Core at this moment to try and affect the pass. He's definitely trying to gain the advantage though, but as they head through turn 10 towards turn 11, he's not quite close enough. He'd have to send it really deep, and I don't think it's quite a bit time for that. Here comes the GTP. Yeah, he's definitely not going to send it now with the GTP diving up the inside.
That's going to cost him a fair bit of time, unfortunately. So he'll have to claw that right back. Of course,
and Pete. Shan Campbell's making the pass on Nick McConnell right now. Nick McConnell's got a little bit out into the grass on the outside. And I think Nick's just going to let Sean go by at this point.
He tried to come back at him under braking, but it was a little too early. So Mukanos eventually cracked, and Campbell is through. In fact, Campbell is now on the radio to Nick, asking if he can see rear-end damage on his car. From earlier, I assume he's referring to with the contact he had with Phil Lake. Interestingly, he's been keeping, despite having to overtake a bunch of cars, Campbell's been keeping pace with Phil Lake. He's only about 14 seconds behind, which would be around the time that he lost at the start there.
Yeah, and important to note, Sean Campbell's now up to P4, so who's the sandwich man? Nicholas Schneider is the sandwich man between Phil Lake and Sean Campbell. And taking a look now at Nicholas Schneider as he's caught his way up to the back of Phil Lake. Impressive pace for him, considering he was about 3.5, 4 seconds down earlier in this race. So as they catch up to the back of the GTOs one more time, which they'll catch them on this lap, it's going to be interesting to see how the traffic favors them. Remember, Millward had a lot of trouble with traffic before, so it'll be interesting to see how Gall, Lake, and Schneider are able to navigate it and if it brings them together again.
We've talked about Hugh Haycox and his progress up the field in pace. Nick Schneider is another one that has impressed me in that sense. He's continued to prove himself someone to watch out for, especially if drama happens in the race. He has stolen wins before. And there you see our leader currently, four-time winner this season, Alex Gall, only has about a second over Phil Lake.
Yeah, absolutely. He got held up just a little bit with a little bit of a miscommunication between himself and Mika Tupola, and that has brought Phil Lake back into play. Nicholas Schneider lost a second, getting held up behind Tupola as they went through 7 and 8 through the S's. So a little bit of trouble with those two drivers, but. You know, you mentioned Hugh Haycox, and we should jump back to the battle between Niels Core and Reed Miller, but I want to mention Haycox because he's closed that 3.3 second gap to Yuko Escola down to 2 seconds, so we should keep our eyes on the timing and scoring on the left side of your screen to see whether or not he can continue to gain that. But look at this, Niels Core just under heavy pressure from Reed at this point.
Right up the tailpipe. Reed Miller has got him right within range now, so the 7, who had to let go a bit through traffic, almost gets into the back of Core momentarily. They do have another prototype coming through. Patrick Hearing is looking like he might get involved in this. Does he wait? Yes. Okay. Thank goodness. I was going to say, if he separates them yet again, that's going to frustrate Miller to no end.
Absolutely, going through the S's. Look at this. Reed Miller just can't find the apex at all right now. I think he was expecting Patrick to go through, and so he's offline through that entire sector. So now as they start to head towards the hairpin of 10, he's lost about half a second to Niels Core over the course of just that little bit right there. But the lead in the GTP is starting to heat up. Phil Lake has closed it down to about half a second to himself and Gall.
Wow. Phil Lake on the charge. When was the last time we saw him take a victory, actually?
It's been a while, Joe.
Yeah. So as the number 4 now has a shot at the victory, let's see what he can do with the ever-quick Alex Gall. The Frenchman has really had the legs over most of the field this season. A few have been able to challenge him on raw pace itself, but today it does seem like Phil Lake has something of the measure of that number 1 machine.
Absolutely, and actually this season Phil has not led a race yet in the Kamel GT. Zero contact right there. Phil Lake onto the back of one of the GTOs.
That was Robert Murphy, unfortunately. So second place now goes to Nick Schneider. This has been a topsy-turvy front of the field today.
Yeah, I think Phil just got in too deep into the corner, unfortunately, and couldn't get out of it. Went to dive down to the inside, and the GTO has to take the apex at that point. And I don't think Phil could have slowed up even if he wanted to for that corner. He was going to go to the outside. He was just a little bit too deep there.
Credit to Phil, he did get on the radio and apologize, taking blame for the incident. So I think he kind of agrees with you. Let's see if he can catch back up to Nick Schneider. It's not drastic, as it's only about 3 seconds, but between Nick and Alex Gall, it's also another 3.5 to 4 seconds. So this may have eaten up what could have been a thrilling battle for the victory in the final stage.
Well, I mean, Joe, you had to say something, right?
Yeah, of course.
As we jump down to P8 in the GTOs, Robin Havich and Hideki Koivisto battling for the 8th position right now. These two guys have been close together for most of this race. And here comes Phil Lake yet again to try and come through, and catches them at the wrong time through to the S's, but through turn 8, he's going to go around the outside, which is going to hold up Havich's exit just a little bit, giving Hideki an opportunity possibly to dive down the inside of 9, but Havich is able to hold on. So as they head towards turn 10, oh, Phil Lake spins again. The tire's just too hot, unfortunately for him.
He gets it back on track, but yet more time lost. This fight continues on past him, though he's probably going to catch back up and have to overtake this pair. Not the best of exits coming off the hairpin for the number 20. Havich stays safe, at least temporarily, coming down to the last quarter of the event here pretty soon. Havich going to have to deal with this pressure for a little bit longer, but currently looking at a top 10.
Absolutely, Havich doing a good job just holding on to that position. Hideki Koivisto doing a good job of putting the pressure on, but Havich has been able to withstand it. He has a little bit of rear damage, possibly from a little bit of contact nose to front. I think possibly with Hideki Koivisto, because I see some nose damage on Hideki, so I think these two have come together a little bit before. Here we have Phil Lake coming through once again. Should be a lot more easy to make this pass this time, as they're going to be between P2, but he has Sean Campbell looking up his rear bumper, and Sean could recover from his starting position all the way back up to 3rd. If he could do that and get back to his starting position, that would be genuinely impressive, Joe.
If I was him, I would count that as a win as he works his way around Koivisto. And it would be a little bit of sweet justice for him if he can do it by overtaking Phil Lake.
Yeah, and Sean, just to answer your question, yes, you do have some rear end damage. So when you look back at this, there's your answer. Sean Campbell trying to catch up to the back of Phil Lake. Phil, I don't believe, has any damage from his spin, but he's now 10.5 seconds behind Nick Schneider, and Nick Schneider's starting to fall off the back of Alex Gall. It's opened the gap up to about 4.3 seconds between Schneider and the leader, Alex Gall.
I think there might be, no, for a second it looked like some damage on the right front of Phil Lake from his second contact. Meanwhile, this is still for 3rd. Pawlowski seems to have fallen off.
Oh, misshift.
Here goes Miller, and he's not able to get through. Core recovered quickly enough on that misshift.
Yeah, just a little bit of a slow shift there from Niels, and Niels actually spins it a little bit wide, gets a little bit loose, and that's going to give an opportunity for Reed Miller to go around the outside as they head towards turn 2. This is a hard place to try and pass. Another double apex, or just like 1, 2. It actually becomes 3 here, so no idea why they named that 2 and 3 versus turn 1, which feels very similar when you drive it. But Reed Miller's going to try and swap over heel, and Niels Core is going to try and hold on as they go through 4, which is a long, just a little bit more than 45 degrees as they dive underneath the bridge. Reed Miller with a huge amount of power on the outside, able to gain that position.
Look at that tenacity in the number 7. Took him a few corners to make it stick, but eventually it worked. So now finally up onto the podium. Can he hold Core off after that? Especially if the traffic keeps flying past them as they both lock up. And this is our leader, Alex Gall, who, while he does have a buffer, he doesn't want to give up too much time, and he's immediately going to try and go up the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the right move to make going into turn 10 to dive it up the inside. That's going to put Reed Miller under pressure, though, from Niels Core. Niels needs to line up behind Reed, try and get those shifts down. Looks like Reed Miller's got the shift pattern just a little bit more effective, possibly doing no clutch upshifting here in this. Oh, he goes a little bit wide. It's going to give an opportunity to Core as they head towards turn 12 and 13. Core's going to take it wide, try and cross him up, but you can't exactly do that when Reed Miller parks it on the apex.
Thought for sure he was going to hand that right back. And that's not a battle for position behind them. That's a lapped car, Paul Duke, as Nick Schneider, who's trying to chase down Alex Gall, approaches this fight for the podium in the GT cars. The Audis work their way through 1 and 2 and up the next stretch. I think they're going to be split, though, unless Schneider can manage to outbrake past Miller, and he's got it.
Schneider is able to get through. Reed Miller just completely locking up those front tires now as they head into these corners. We are underneath the quarter race mark to go here for these drivers. So Reed Miller's trying to put everything out there to keep Niels Core behind. Niels just looks very comfortable on the brakes now at this point versus Reed Miller, who's really struggling to get his nose pointed into the corner. Oh boy!
Paul Duke making a brave choice around the outside of turn 6. Somehow he doesn't lose the car and nobody wrecks.
Well, I'm sure that Niels Core doesn't quite appreciate the change of fire suit, but I mean, Paul Duke able to hold on to it, just didn't manage not to put his foot down and spin out there. But wow, Niels Core able to hold on to the car, so is Paul Duke, and they're all get out of this cleanly.
Oh, let's head back up to Sean Campbell. He's been continuing to close in on Phil Lake. I think, whoa, Lake just had a big tank slapper coming off of the hairpin of 10. Let's take a look at this. You mentioned earlier it seemed like he had overheated the rear tires. I think he still hasn't gotten over that.
Absolutely, and if anyone who's driven oval on iRacing knows the feeling that once you heat up those rear tires, they never really feel the same. They never really grip the track the same way. As we go back live, Phil Lake has been held up just a little bit behind Niels Core. This is that battle for third place in the GTOs that we've seen, and this is actually going to separate Campbell and Phil a little bit. Campbell choosing to go around the outside of the corner. Phil Lake can't quite get the speed down, and look at that, Campbell now within half a second. This battle's on.
Both third place fights go past one another. Campbell certainly took those first set of corners a little bit better, but seems to have been caught out in the second half as the gap goes back up to 0.6 of a second. Phil Lake has got to hold on for 6 more minutes if he wants to spray the champagne.
Absolutely, and he's got to be careful though, because they have Paul Duke up ahead, and we know that Paul's taking a couple of risks right now. We'll see how he does with dealing with some of the lapping traffic of his own class, because they're gaining on him quite quickly. So there you see Paul Duke in that green and red machine just going through the corner now, and here's Phil and Sean trying to duck through the corner.
Let's see if Phil can take some of these slow turns a little bit smoother this time. This is where we saw him nearly turn it around last time around, and that looks a lot better. Great job by Duke, just hopping out of the way.
Absolutely, but guess who got held up by Nick McConos? Niels Core and Reed Miller, P3 and P4 in the GTO once again, but Niels just can't seem to get that shifting pattern down. He loses time to Reed Miller on the exits of the corners every single time when we get to these long straightaways. So even though he's better through the center of the corner, Reed Miller is able to gain time because he's able to get through the gearbox quicker than Niels, and we know that Niels is struggling a little bit with shifting as well.
With the gearbox as finicky as a tabby cat at dinner time, Niels Core just can't seem to get it to agree with him as they plunge down into the first corner once again. This is, despite all the racing that they've had, they're only, no, actually I was going to say they're 7 seconds behind the leaders. They're much farther back than that. I take that back. They're split by Paul Duke on my time and in scoring, so they have lost a fair bit of time. Hugh Haycox is not. He's still within 2 seconds of Lesko. I'd certainly like to talk to each of them to figure out if this is legitimate pace from the pair or if Yuko is essentially just kind of managing the race. Oh, lock up from Reed.
Yeah, and Hugh, sorry, that was Niels who had to back off just a little bit there to make sure he didn't run to the back of Reed. So it's, Phil Lake has spun! Phil Lake has spun it going into turn 9, and that has given Sean Campbell the position up to P3.
A day to forget for the number 4. In fact, he's going to fall to 5th as Nick Mukanos manages to get by. Another bit of driver error from Phil Lake. Uncharacteristic to see this many in a single race from Phil as well. He's usually pretty clean.
Yeah, I know Phil has not been happy with his consistency over the course of the season, hence why he did a couple of races in the GTO. And I mean, this is just going to be one of those days where he has to remember that he is fairly new to the GTP, especially with all the changes that they've made to it recently. It's not the same car he drove a couple of years ago, so...
Oh, let's go back to Corin and Miller, because they just got overtaken by Sintes Guindo, who barely got himself to the inside of turn 11. Miller almost had to give up the spot as the 10 took a poke.
Yeah, let's take a look at this again, because this was really close. If Reed Miller had made contact with Sintes Guindo at all, this would have been disastrous for all of them. So here we see Sintes Guindo going up the inside at turn 11 here as they dive down to the inside. Look at him lose it right there. Reed has to back off. Almost contact between himself and Niels. Whew. Very close between those guys.
Can't get much closer, to be honest. Core could have easily got into there, or maybe even made contact with Reed Miller, but he keeps him within striking range. This all to decide third place in our GTOs, and it has not separated for the entire race. Once again, Miller struggling with the brakes. Has he abused them too much?
Miller's struggling with the brakes. Nils is struggling with the gearbox. I don't know who's going to come out on top, but if they keep struggling evenly with each of these, it's going to stay just the way it is. But there goes Reed once again, pushing into that corner. He just does not have any way to get that car to turn right now. Niels needs to take advantage of this and try and get up behind him. He needs to find some way to be a little bit quicker through that gearbox.
80s brakes on a big, heavy Audi just don't last. And unfortunately for Reed Miller, his have seemed to have given up the ghost once again, taking it way deep into the corner. He can't seem to make any of the apexes, and yet Niels Core can't seem to make any of the exits.
I don't know who you pick in this situation. I think you pick Reed because he's in front right now, but they're really, really even right now with both of their disadvantages really plaguing them.
Back into the infield yet again. I think this is going to be 2 to go this time by for this pair, as we will get 1 to go for Alex Gall next time he comes across the line. And still incredibly tight deciding amongst this pair. What amazes me as well is that Roman has not caught up to them.
Yeah, Roman's 4.3 seconds back now, separated by Lust Olsen. All right, Niels Core, great run right now, but he's not quite got the shift. Oh, he's going to take a look. He's going to take a look and try and force Reed Miller wide. Here we go into 4. Contact between the two of them. Niels decides to stick his nose in and take that position away.
That seemed fair to me. He looked well past him. Oh, but he's going to slow it up. He's going to hand the spot back. Was it his shift?
No, he lets him go.
I was going to say he didn't feel right making the contact to make the overtake. He wants to do it clean. Like I said, I feel that was fair game. That was clean racing to me, just aggressive.
I mean, I respect his position, but at the same time, it's third position. You have to pay attention to it. But white flag for Alex Galls. He crosses the line for the final time.
1 more around. Credit to Nick Schneider, still 4 seconds back. He's still keeping him honest, but Alex Gall, despite not leading all of this race, has used the luck to his advantage and is looking like he's about to take his 5th win. Getting ready to take the white flag themselves. The battle between Reed Miller and Niels Core rages on.
Absolutely right now in the first of the 2 pit straights. Niels Core with a little bit better shifting that time through, but as they dive down towards turn 11, he's not really going to have an opportunity to make the move. Reed Miller doing a little bit better to get that car to the apex, but still slides through it. Niels Core very, very tight. So here they go through 12, 13, and 14 as they come towards that front straightaway. Let's see who gets a better exit. Reed Miller, better exit once again. He's going to be able to hang on to that position as they cross the line for the white flag.
1 more to go. Reed Miller and Niels Core have given us probably some of the best excitement we've seen all race. Out of turn 2. Reed Miller, once again, looking as smooth as you like. Impressive of him to be able to run this well for this long. We'll have to duck away from this, though, because Alex Gall just has a couple more corners left. With a handicap of about 4.5 seconds, he has managed this race, and maybe he wasn't the fastest over 1 lap, but he is the one that is going to take the victory here today at Motegi for the Kamel GT Series.
Absolutely. We're going to take a look at Nicholas Schneider as he crosses the line for second place. I don't think he expected that, and neither will Sean Campbell expect that third position either, considering all the trouble that he had at the beginning of the race, but great race from them for sure.
I think we got Yuko Leskala approaching here soon as we take a glance at Niels Kor, who sends it up the inside, and this time he gets it as he scares Miller off the track. But we've got to go to Yuko Leskala, and through the final chicane, another driver taking his 5th win of the season. The Finn has been dominant.
And that was Hugh Haycock's only 1.2 seconds behind, so an impressive drive for Hugh to get to that second place. Let's see whether Nils, 20 seconds behind, can hold on for third.
Yeah, Miller does not look anywhere close enough. And as they come back into the infield, as long as Niels is clean through this last chicane, this is a well-earned podium for the number 10. What a run.
What a run for him, and Reed just had nothing left, completely slid it through 13 and 14, comes home in 4th position. But let's take a look at the replay of that moment there, because that was impressive stuff. I mean, Reed Miller just got scared out of his wits on the outside of that corner, just couldn't quite turn the car. I think he just completely ran out of brakes, Joe. So here's through 1. As they go through 2, that's where we'll see the pass happen.
Yeah, it'll be after the S's. So Niels Kor has just been hounding him, just been keeping the pressure on. And I want to give a tip of the hat to Olsen, who just sat behind. He saw this was a close battle for a top spot. He didn't have any reason to try and interrupt it, so he just kind of waited behind to let this settle. And yeah, it looks like he saw Niels put his nose in, try to brake as late as possible, and unfortunately for Miller, it was a little too late. So that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Twin Ring Motegi. Round 7 here for the Kamel GT series went to Alex Gall. But that's not the whole story. He started from second and inherited that first place after our pole sitter Alex Millward blew his engine. Nick Schneider got a bit of a surprise second place, and Sean Campbell, somebody give that man a drink. He went from third to nearly dead last, back to third, ahead of Nick Mukanos, who finished fourth. Phil Lake, who could have come home in third today and was there for a good chunk of this race, just kept making too many mistakes. He still got himself a top five. Aitor Sintez Guindo was sixth, with Fabian Jungbluth in seventh. Then you've got Laust Olsen in P8, and the last one on the lead lap of our prototypes, Carlos Fonseca in ninth. 10th went to Patrick Kieran, with Paul Duke finishing a couple laps down in 11th in class.
Yuka Leskala took the win over Hugh Haycox only by 1 second, though, so very impressive drive from Hugh to come home in second. Yuko taking his 5th win of the season out of 6 races. Niels Kor comes home in third after holding off, well, actually after beating Reed Miller. Reed Miller coming home in the 4th position with just no tires left on that machine. Roman Pawlowski, though, didn't have any pace to catch him up either after those three were battling for most of the race. Ian Haycox, about 20 seconds behind those guys, comes home ahead of Brian Shanahan, able to hold him off for most of the race. Robin Happich able to hold off Hideki Koivisto for that 8th position over 9th Koivisto. Albrecht Liebenau comes home in 10th, with Robert Murphy in 12th, Mika Tupula in the 13th position, and Jay Becker 14th. And then we have the drivers who did not finish: Alex Millward, Jacob Leon, Matthew Tate, Oren Laskin, and Aaron Vagley.
Looks like we've got our third place finisher, Niels Kor, here. Adam has caught up with him, and boy, I bet he's got a story to tell.
Yeah, Niels, you and Reed Miller were battling tooth and nail throughout that race, and it seemed like you had him on the brakes, but he had you on the straights. What do you think was the difference?
It's probably down to the setup, to be honest. Like, I was complaining, like I was in voice chat again with Alex Gell, and I was complaining to him quite a lot that I just don't understand how Reed was so fast on the acceleration. Like, he was sometimes even getting worse entries because locking up and so on, and it still didn't feel like I was getting better exits. It's probably got down to the gearing or something.
Absolutely, but you and Reed, I mean, such close battles, but we saw you make the pass early and you made a little bit of contact with Reed Miller, and then you handed that position back. What was going through your mind as you made that decision to hand the position back to Reed?
I just want to race cleanly, and if I get P3 here, I don't want to do it by like crashing into someone. I mean, looking back at the incident, actually I think the move was probably fine because I was almost completely past him. But yeah.
Absolutely, but a fantastic drive from you, able to capitalize on some of the mistakes of the competitors ahead of you. But as you look towards the rest of the season, as we're into the second half now, what are your hopes going forward? Are you hoping for more podiums, or are you just looking for consistency this season?
Well, I wouldn't mind a few more podiums, to be honest, but yeah, it's gonna depend on the tracks and who is showing up. But I think I can definitely do something here a bit.
Absolutely. Well, Niels, fantastic finish today. And since this, I believe, is your first time up here with us for this series, is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I would definitely like to thank my team, Chicane Online Racing. They have been watching the stream as well, and they always support me quite a bit.
Absolutely, Niels. Well, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on the bronze medal today. That was Niels Kor, our third place finisher in the GTOs, and it looks like Joe has caught up with Phil Lake, who came home in 5th today in the GTPs.
Yes, though it looked like it could have been a little bit more, and I hope I'm not rubbing salt in the wounds, Phil, but it looked a little uncharacteristic for you. A number of mistakes out on track. Did something feel off?
No, not really. I've been making a lot of mistakes recently, that's why I took a little break, and then I came back. I still am, so maybe the break wasn't long enough. But no, it was going really well up until the halfway point. I was really pushing to keep up with Alex Gal and Alex at the start, and yeah, I think I paid for that at the end of the race. The tires were really gone.
Does the management of sort of, I guess, the resources of the car, is that become a really major factor in the Kamel GT series? Because we do talk a lot about the tires as well as now the brakes with the brake fade. Do you find yourself having to be very cognizant of that to have good overall pace?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not very experienced on the new tires on the Nissan, but I always found myself on the previous tire model having a stronger pace than everybody else at the end in the last sort of third of the race. It seems to be the opposite now, so I need to figure something out. I'm not sure if people are just not driving as hard in the early laps to save some, whether they're actively saving some tires or whether it's just my driving style. Maybe I just need to make an adjustment somewhere, but I really haven't put enough time in to figure it all out. But it's definitely a factor now. You do have to take care of the car.
Well, speaking of taking care of things, even though it is a bit of a tradition in the Kamel Series, Summit Point is up next. We always know that can be a bit of chaos. What are your feelings like heading to one of the shortest circuits on the season?
Yeah, I've had some really good races there over the years. I had a really good battle with Antti a few years ago, and some good battles with Riley and Yuko, and so it tends to be some really good racing with some craziness going on. So whenever the traffic comes around, at a point it just becomes endless traffic, and you're kind of trying to have a battle with somebody while avoiding the traffic. And those are the kind of races I enjoy because there's just so much going on. You're just sort of it feels like almost like qualifying the whole time because you're just really focused on what's happening.
Well, sounds like you enjoy multitasking. Commiserations that it wasn't a podium, but still congratulations on a top 5.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was Phil Lake today, and I believe that wraps up our interview. So we're going to give a big thank you, of course, to the Kamel GT Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is up there as well. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing channel. The next race at Summit Point will be Saturday, May 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, including this evening. The Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series goes to South Boston at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.